I second the motion.
So, Ms. Kim?
This is very difficult for me. First of all, to the Lee family, I offer my condolences. And when I first heard about this tragic accident last year, being a Korean American legislator and the only Korean American legislator currently serving in the California State Legislature, I learned about this last year and my heart sank. I tried to reach out to the family, but being a mother of 4 kids, it just immediately touched me, and I knew I would break down if I held hands of Mr. and Mrs. Lee. And I was asked if there is anything we can do, and I felt very powerless. Just because we're legislators doesn't mean when something like this happens, we can change things overnight and bring back the child that is no longer with us. It's a very, very difficult issue for me. I feel so bad that I cannot I just want to express my condolences. And if you would indulge me, I would like to speak to them in Korean. 작년에 이런 일이 있을 때 두 분 만나 뵙고 손이라도 잡고 함께 울면서 그 어린아이 정말 자기 표현도 못하는 우리 어린아이 남들이 옆에서 있으면서도 지켜줄 수 있었음에도 그거를 지켜주지 못한 거에 대해서 저도 내 아이를 키운 엄마로서 너무너무 가슴이 아파요. 그리고 이런 것이 저희가 법으로 이런 거를 해야 된다는 그 자체가 너무너무 가슴 아픕니다. 근데 지금 법으로만 할 수 있는 게 아니에요. 여러 가지 여건이 또 있고 과연 이거를 함으로써 과연 법이 있는데 to my colleagues, I'm so sorry. This is a tough issue. I'm struggling. What we're trying to do is prevent further death that could have been prevented. And what we're trying to do is put in place safety measures so we won't have sad stories like this come before our committee, to change and prevent further death through legislation. This is not necessary if we all did our part. If the bus driver did their part, if the school district did their part, as parents, if we did their part, this would have been totally prevented. But we're here today. And at the same time, we're talking about trying to do a legislation. And even if we pass this legislation, it's not going to bring back the life of Paul Lee. So I'm struggling with the idea here. I support what we're trying to do, and I support what the author is trying to do. And I think it's going to be referred to the Education Committee, and I serve on the Education Committee, so I will have a second opportunity to vote on this. For the time being, we are also, I understand there is a question on amendment, and you are considering, and I know you are not at this point ready to accept the amendment, and I need time to also study that amendment and how it's affecting, because we're also looking at the financial aspect of how it's going to affect the market. So I would like to take the time right now to consider everything that's on the table. There are a lot of things I want to say, but my emotion is getting over me. So I just want to say that while this is supportable on an emotional basis, I do want to take the time and wait until this gets readdressed in my Education Committee. So 두 분께 너무 다시 한번 저희 가슴 아픈 저희 마음도 함께 받아주시기 바랍니다. 근데 오늘은 제가 이거에 대해서 일단 투표는 못하고 교육위원회에서 이게 또 다시 디스커스가 될 거니까 그때 다시 여러분들과 다시 얘기하면서 그때 제가 결정할 수 있는 시간을 주시면 내가 왜 오늘 여기에 투표를 못하는지 이해를 해주시면 고맙겠습니다. 감사합니다. Thank you.
Ms. Melendez? Then I think we have Mr. Kesson Chu, and then Mr. Medina wants to speak again. Mr. Chu.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Senator, for bringing this forward, and my heartfelt condolence to the Lee family. I was looking at this bill. I'm not really worried about the $7,000 retrofit to the SPAB, but I felt that nothing can replace a human intervention. I would really like to have chaperones on every yellow buses, in the morning and in the afternoon. I know that's not really a practical solution. I appreciate the additional device to the back of the bus, but that not necessarily will prevent the human error 100% of the time. The bus driver can easily run to the back of the bus, hit a button, and ignore that there may still be kids hiding underneath the chair. So the additional chaperone is definitely, to me, it's a better solution. I know it's not possible to have a chaperone on the yellow buses every day. But for the field trips and when the school have to go out and rent a bus, and they could either choose to rent it from the company that have this additional safety devices on it, or they could choose to have more than one chaperone. And again, my feeling is regardless whether you have that device, I will encourage the school district to always require a chaperone when they were renting a bus to take the kids to Magic Mountain or whatever, or to a sport event. I think with two or more than two adult to double check on the system, make sure there are no kids that are left behind. Is a system that better than the adding a device to the back of the bus. So I will lay out today, and hopefully that you will consider the amendment and hopefully be able to support you on the floor. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Mr. Medina.
Yeah, I see here that the states of Arkansas, Louisiana, Texas, and Wisconsin require a similar alarm system. What I'm not clear in my own mind is, how does this system work, the one that you're proposing? I understand that the bus driver goes to the back of the bus. How does this system work?
Okay. Briefly, so when the bus driver ends his route, goes in, checks out, turns off the bus, closes it, and leaves without going to the back of the bus, there'll be a beeping noise inside the bus for about 2 minutes. It'll just be a small beep, kind of a signal that the alarm's going to go off if you don't go turn it off. So if he walks away, the horns and the alarm and the horn of the car and the lights will go off after the 2 minutes are up. And the only way you could turn it off is you have to go back in the bus. You have to go to the back. You have to push this button, and that's the way.
So
it'll come
2 minutes goes by before
yeah,
the alarm goes
it gives you
off?
like about a minute to a minute and a half, almost 2 minutes. As soon as you turn off the bell, it'll start beeping like a small little beep in the back. Small, like every 10 seconds, beep, beep, right? Telling you that you have to go to the back of the bus, kind of signaling already. A small little beep. And if the driver does not go to the back and just exits the bus and locks it up and leaves, in about a couple minutes, it'll go off. And it'll be the horns of the bus, the lights of the bus will go off. And that's pretty, there's two different systems. That's one. There's another one, the sonar, that's more advanced and more high-tech and more expensive. That one, they use certain badges. You just click on the back of the bus, you click on there. Or even if that person goes to go check out and go home, they have to, if he didn't put that pad in the back of the bus, it won't let you go home. You can't sign out of work until you go back to the bus and scan it in. So it's a little bit more advanced, more expensive, but this is the most basic.
So it kind of works kind of like a home alarm to notify the bus driver that he hasn't done what he's supposed to have done.
Yes.
He or she is supposed to have done.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. And just to reiterate, I think a little bit, this bill this is just one component of what this bill is trying to accomplish. Right now, there's no real punishment or real data looking into how many kids are actually been left behind. The DMV has no notification whatsoever. There's no punishment. There's no revocation of license. There's no suspension of license. There's nothing in existence when a child gets left behind by a bus driver at all. So this bill does a lot more than just. I didn't want to do a bill to do this. This would be useless. I didn't want to do a bill for that. I wanted to do what are we going to really do to really make sure that this doesn't happen again. So notifying the DMV is one. Having the school district provide protocols on how to make sure that they go back and check the bus and make sure that's part of the and during their annual training when they have to recertify, make sure that's part of their training. So all this is in place. I didn't want to do a bill for this. For what? I didn't want to do that. I wanted to make sure that we covered the other parts of it. So it's not a matter of cost because I have an email here from the manufacturers. It's $7,000 is ridiculous. They've installed over 1,300 of them in different countries with different languages. Never a problem, easy to install, state-of-the-art buses. I think it's just some of the scare tactics that are trying to keep us from getting this bill out. But I do think that this bill does a lot more than just install that.
So, Mr. Bloom, you have a question, then Mr. Pane wanted to respond.
Just a quick comment. I think I understand the direction the author wants to go on this bill, and I'm supportive of that. I frankly didn't understand the reason why the author's not willing to take the amends, but I'm content to see the bill move forward and vote for it today, but withhold my support pending either a better understanding of why the amends shouldn't be taken or hopefully seeing that the amends are taken.
Mr. Pane, you had a response to some of the statements?
Mr. Chairman and members, we're just looking to simply say, as Assemblyman Kansam Chu said, if an operator doesn't want to have an extra person on board, then they'd have to put one of these on. That's all the amendments do. So we appreciate that. That simply is it. This would be an extra person, the bus driver and a chaperone. In some cases, districts require more chaperones, but we're willing to say, as the committee consultant has written, put it in law. We said, okay, we'll put it in law to make sure it's there, that there's an extra person on board, not on yellow school buses. Everything that happened here with this poor child, this poor death, that will be the case. There'll be a button on the back of the bus. But in all these other buses where they're used to go to the Giants game, where they're used to go to a cocktail party, where they're used to go to Lake Tahoe and all these other places, and they are used for students, we're saying if they're students, then you have to have a chaperone on board, or you'll need this button on the back of the bus. That's simply it. So we would urge the committee to adopt these amendments. You can vote for the bill, and it's still a solid bill. And I think it accomplishes what the senator wants to accomplish. And that's what I'd urge you to do today.
Mr. Chair, the amendments I don't really read them that way. The amendments say here that a school pupil activity bus is not required to be equipped with an operational child alarm system if both the following apply. The school pupil activity bus is not exclusively to transport just pupils. Well, that's everybody. All their buses don't exclusively transport kids. The whole industry will be exempt just by that amendment alone. Now, if they have 100 buses and 20 of them are used constantly to transport students, then put the alarm system on the 20, not the other 80. We're good with that. They could do that. You don't need an amendment to do that. But by doing this with the exclusively to transport, well, then the whole charter industry will be excluded. So it doesn't. that's why the amendment makes it really unworkable, because I wish we could put it on there that says, okay, only the 10 or the amount of buses they use, they know right now how many buses they used last year to transport students. Count them up and put the alarm system on those, and the other ones you didn't use for students, don't put the alarm on those. And you'll see that the number is very minuscule.
Mr. Chairman, we didn't write this
Josh.
amendment.
Excuse me. So let me just read, because I think you have a misunderstanding about the amendment, and let me just clarify for you. The school pupil activity bus is not used exclusively, and the word exclusively, to transport pupils. Okay, so if it is not exclusively used for pupils, then it would be exempt. If it is used exclusively for pupils, it will have to have the button. That is the amendment.
And this has to apply.
And when the school pupil activity bus is used to transport pupils, the pupils are accompanied by a chaperone designated by the County Office of Education, school district, or private school pursuant to paragraph 5 of subdivision A of section 39831.3 of the Education Code. So both of those are there to clarify that for you.
And the chaperone component, remember, these chaperones are not trained individuals. These are just volunteers, folks that just want to go for the trip and not really are responsible or going to claim any responsibility when something goes wrong. And when the bus driver has actually been trained, these bus drivers that these private charter buses use, these drivers get trained the same way as regular school bus drivers. They're expected to go to the back of the bus, and yet they still don't.
So I just wanted to clarify the amendments for you. Ms. Melendez.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Ma'am, you came here and you've shared your story that is heartbreaking to everyone here, and now you have to listen to us bicker about and try to work out the details of the policy, and I apologize for that. I know that can't be easy for you. In your mind, you just want to see the legislature do the right thing. Unfortunately, we do have to go through the process of making sure we do this exactly right so that we're not doing more harm than good, or not doing anything at all in the end. So thank you for your patience, and thank you for sharing your story with us. God bless your family. With respect to this bill, I am fully in support of this bill with the amendments. And it sounds like we don't have agreement on the amendments here, but I will tell you, so I have 5 kids, and they're all still in school. They're all still at home. I've gone on a lot of field trips, some on the regular school bus, some on the motor coaches. And the chaperones that go on these field trips aren't just some random person that shows up on the bus and is just there for a free ride. These are parents like me, parents who absolutely care about the kids on that bus. It is not a cavalier attitude with which they get on that bus and go on that field trip. So having been there, as probably many members of this committee have been, let's just make sure that we all understand that the chaperones going with these kids would never intentionally leave a child behind. I think it makes sense to have these alarms on the school buses because there's no chaperone on those buses, just the bus driver. On the buses that are going on a field trip where you have chaperones, where you have, listen, half the time they have to tell parents, no, we have too many chaperones, you can't come on. Not in all cases, but there are certainly cases in which that happens. But on the motor coaches that have chaperones, it doesn't seem to make any sense to me. On the buses, though, and I think there's just obviously there has to be something worked out with these amendments because I think there is confusion between both parties. But if there's a chaperone and a bus driver, it doesn't make any sense. If there is no chaperone, I'm with you on that. We want to make sure that somebody knows what's going on with these kids. So I hope that you gentlemen, I don't know what's going to happen with the committee here today, but I hope that you all can come to some sort of agreement because I think what you're trying to do is the right thing. I think there's just a little tweak that needs to take place. Thank you.
Thank you.
I think Ms. Brown had another question.
My question was the subsection that you mentioned, is that the person who would be the chaperone, would that be someone who is employed by the school district? This is to Mr. Chair. Was that someone who is employed by the school district, or was that, as Ms. Melendez said, a parent?
as Ms. Melendez said, could be a parent. It's not necessarily from the school district.
That was my question.
Thank you. So, any other questions of the committee of the author or opponents? Seeing none, Senator, would you like to close?
Members, I want to thank you again for your time, Mr. Chair, and members, for allowing us to present this bill. Obviously, this is a very emotional bill for many of us. It's a district bill that I think it's a story that could be easily played out in any one of your districts, anywhere in the state. I understand the concern with the opposition in regards to having charter buses excluded from this. I feel there might be something we could work out. I do think if we could find a way of making it either certain buses that do attend or do most of the events, I don't have a problem with that. If it's all of them being exempted, I think we're back to the square one, because there's story after story with kids are being left behind in those buses as well. And we're going to be right back here with another incident. Can't tell you enough. I usually start my statement with all the different cases throughout every city and what happened, what type of child was left behind. And the list got too long, so I just didn't bother to bring it because it just becomes too long. But really hoping that you would consider letting this bill out and letting us continue to work. As many of you might sit on the education committee, I know 2 or 3 of you sit there. Love to continue working with the chair if possible, and also with the opposition on how we could come to some agreement. But respectfully ask for your aye vote today.
Thank you for that, Senator. Mr. and Mrs. Lee, my condolences, and thank you so much for your efforts going forward in your child's name. I lost a child. But one of the things that I've come to the conclusion is that you never stop grieving. But you can continue to uphold the legacy of your child. And doing this is very admirable, and I appreciate your efforts because I know how tough this is. I sat in that chair when my daughter died. And when I got to the hospital, they had told me both my kids had died in that accident. So I completely understand where you are right now. I've asked the opposition to provide me with information and to have the manufacturer here today. That didn't happen. So there's some ambiguity going on between the two different sides of what it costs and what it doesn't and what it would affect. And to be able to accomplish at least the smallest goal of having a chaperone, this bill could die today because the amendments weren't taken. But what I want to do, in all respect to your family and to the senator, is give it an opportunity for the sides to continue to work going forward, knowing that the greater good could come out of this, and at the very least a chaperone. Now, I'd like to be able to tell you that out of the 8 million children that go to school now in California, and that 82, 86, Senator, that you had stated that were left on buses in California, that we're going to be able to alleviate all of this. There still is the human factor, as has been stated, that somebody could run back, just push the button and not look. I firmly believe that if we have a chaperone, that's another set of eyes that could be more consistent going forward, and with the proper training and maybe some more deterrent or punishment, as the Senator has stated, that we would have a more effective way of protecting children. Going forward, Senator, I'm going to give you a courtesy vote today, and I suggest that all the members who are willing to withhold their vote based on the not willing to take the amendments, I say that we make sure that we give the parties another chance at resolution, because it is referred to education, that we make sure that the very least we have the opportunity for a chaperone. So with that, I will be supporting the bill with the condition that I have the the right to change my vote as it hits the floor of the assembly. But I strongly urge you, and if I can be of any service working with the opposition, that I strongly urge you to work towards a compromise going forward based on the information we've had today, and the willingness to work with manufacturers and understand their process and maybe their inability to be able to do this at some kind of scale of economy. So, Madam Secretary, with that, we have a first from Assemblymember Baker and a second from Assemblymember Brown. With that, I will ask you to call the roll.
The motion is due pass to the Assembly Education Committee. Frazier?
Aye.
Frazier, aye. Linder? Aye. Linder, aye. Baker? Baker, aye. Bloom? Aye. Bloom, aye. Brown?
Aye.
Brown, aye. Chu?
Aye.
Chu, aye. Daly?
Aye.
Daly, aye. Dodd?
Aye.
Dodd, aye. Eduardo Garcia? Eduardo Garcia, aye. Gomez? Kim? Mathis? Medina?
Aye.
Medina, aye. Melendez? Nazarian?
Aye.
Nazarian, aye. O'Donnell? Aye. O'Donnell, aye.
Your bill is out. It has 12. We'll leave the roll open for absent members. Mr. Lee, my condolences, and thank you for your strong support. Senator Lara, thank you for your patience. Senator, we have Senate Bill 247. Proceed when you're ready, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and members. Again, we bring to you another tragic story. SB 247 is long overdue update to safety regulations that govern charter buses. I have been working to address the issues brought by the California Bus Association.
Move the bill.
And have taken amendments, thank you, that strike several of the most costly provisions of the bill entirely and remove the retrofit requirements of the bill. The bill now requires only new buses to meet the standards. Last year, a group of college-bound high school students on their way to tour Humboldt State University via charter bus were struck by a FedEx truck that crossed the median. Tragically, 10 people were killed in this accident. Afterwards, the National Transportation Safety Board investigated the incident and found the high number of deaths were in large part due to inadequate safety procedures and exit systems, and issued a series of recommendations to improve the passenger safety. SB 247 will implement those NTSB recommendations. New buses starting 2020 must also be equipped with emergency lighting fixtures, windows that can be easily opened and remain open in the event of evacuation, and a second door. The majority of the passengers members in this tragic incidents were 16 to 24 years old in prime physical condition. Had the passengers been small children or elderly or people with disabilities, as we just heard, there would have been many more deaths. Most of the NTSB recommendations were made prior to this accident, but have not been implemented for years, some for decades. Repeatedly, the NTSB has found that the components laid out in my bill would have saved the lives in this accident. Other high-occupancy vehicles like trains, limousines, and planes have far more stringent safety standards than buses. SB 247 would close the gap in the safety standards between buses and other modes of transportation. We cannot prevent every accident, but we can ensure that the vehicles are safe and as many people survive as possible when an accident does occur. I respectfully ask for a vote.
Thank you, Senator. Any witnesses in support? Please state your name and who you represent, please.
Hello, my name is Santiago Calderon, and I was involved in the Orland bus crash April 10, 2014. I'm 20 years old, from Oxnard, California, and currently a third-year student at Humboldt State University. The reason I came here today is to tell my story and to speak for those who could not be here. It was a tragic event, and it is on my mind every day, first thing when I wake up and before I fall asleep. That day I boarded the bus at LA Union Station at 7:30 in the morning. We were never given safety precautions prior to leaving the station. Shortly before the accident, I was asleep and woke to my bus driver frantically pressing on the brakes, trying to avoid what was the FedEx tractor trailer. After impact, I stood up, looked to the front of the bus, and it was instantly engulfed in flames. I knew my first thoughts was the bus was going to explode, and if I didn't make it out, I was going to die. I instantly started looking for a way out. I looked to the back of the bus, hoping for a door. There was not one. Smoke started to fill the air, and I began to lose visibility. I heard screams and cries for help from other high school seniors, fearful for their lives. I saw a bright light, which was a kicked open window, one that I jumped out of headfirst. Thankfully, it was daytime. If it was nighttime, I don't think I would have saw that window. Lights and easily visible signs indicating the exits would have helped more people to survive that day. Luckily, those that did survive jumped out of that same window. If I had known where the exits were and how to get out of the windows, I believe a lot more people would have survived that day and would have gotten out faster. I knew some people did not make it out. Had these requirements in SB 247 have been passed prior to the crash, there's no doubt in my mind that more people would have survived that day. I want to thank Senator Laura for authoring this bill on behalf of all the families involved in this tragedy. Thank you, and I respectfully request you to support this bill.
Thank you for that. Any other witnesses in support? Please state your name and who you represent.
Yes,
please.
Jeff Wells. I'm an attorney from Santa Monica, California. I represent Santiago and also 3 other families, 2 of which lost their children in the bus that were burned to death. One of those girls was the valedictorian of her class in Inglewood, California. Only child in her family that was going to attend college and was going to be on a full ride at Humboldt State. She was a cheerleader, a mentor, a tutor, #1 student in her class. She burned to death in the bus. This bill has a lot of common sense, low-cost measures, 247. I really want to commend Senator Lara for bringing it forward. Some of these recommendations, like giving instructions to the students where the exits are, cost nothing. Nothing. Going around making bigger lights so you can see where the exits are costs little or nothing. These common sense measures would have saved lives. If we fail to pass this bill, what are we going to say to the next family? What am I going to say to the next family that comes to my office with their child that's been burned to death? Thank you, and I appreciate your consideration.
Any other witnesses in support of the bill? Seeing none and hearing none, any witnesses in opposition to the author's bill?
Mr. Chairman, Josh Pane on behalf of the California Bus Association. We offer our neutrality. We've worked closely with the Senator over almost 8 months now and appreciate all of your work and all of the Senator's work on this item. And we appreciate the Senator's understanding and taking the amendments that he did. We appreciate that very much. Thank you very much.
State your name and who you represent, please.
Good afternoon. Steve Wallach on behalf of the Motor Coach Industries. We continue to be opposed to the bill. I think the amendments have made us progress in the right direction. However, when these accidents do occur, they do these investigations, they make recommendations to NHTSA. NHTSA then does the analysis and looks into whether these recommendations are feasible, whether they would make a difference. This bill kind of bypasses that and goes directly to implementation. It directs CHP to make standards and regulations for exits that are already required under federal law, already covered under NHTSA administration. And we're concerned that that's going to create conflicts between what California wants and what the feds want, and whether there's going to be a preemption issue there. We feel that, there's language in there that talks about not construed to be conflicting with federal law, but we're not really sure what construed means. I think if there's a conflict, there's a conflict. We think there's a better way of drafting that to make it clear that if there is a conflict, which prevails. So we continue to be opposed unless it's amended. There's other issues regarding the CHP process, whether they have the technical feasibility to actually come up with these regulations. These are very detailed, extensive, costly, and time-consuming process. We're familiar with the NHTSA process. It does take time. It is bureaucratic, but it's what's known. It's what results in standards that can be applied nationwide and actually be achievable. So at this point, we urge your no vote.
Another witness, please state your name and who you represent.
Yes, this is Tim LaFawn. I represent the Volvo Group companies. First of all, Mr. Chairman and distinguished members, I thank you for the opportunity to come and speak. I want to echo what was said before. First of all, my condolences go out to those involved. This was a very tragic accident, obviously, but I did like the word common sense approach. There are things that we can do, obviously, and we need to do. Some of the concerns that we have is in regards to, for example, the side door and some additional emergency exits and so forth. FMVSS 217 does regulate those sections so that that there's consistency and uniformity. So, and I understand NTSB has made those recommendations. I believe for the side door, however, they had not made that before. I think it's worth taking a look at, but what I would recommend is that we look at it from a federal perspective, and we let the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration do their due course in this. If we don't, then in turn we run the risk of having a standard that is different in California than the rest of the U.S. So in turn, we could end up with buses that are fully compliant in 2020 that are not compliant, are fully compliant with the U.S. standards that are not compliant in the state of California. So I think with some small tweaks, if we can reference the FMVSS requirements and look at it from that perspective, I think it will be a good bill. I appreciate the time that you give me, and thank you so much for your time.
So just to a little segue here, we have some members that do have a meeting with the speaker at 4 o'clock. So I'm going to ask you to be brief so that we can at least get a vote. And I'm not trying to rush you, but again, I think you might want their vote.
My pleasure.
So please state your name and who you represent.
My name's Louis Hotard, once again, ABC Bus Companies. We're the distributor for the Von Hool Motor Coaches in the U.S. A couple observations. We all for sure want safe motor coaches, and that's what we do. We've been ahead of the forefront in seatbelts and a lot of things prior to now. I would just like to remind everybody that today on any given 45-foot coach, we have 11, or at least in a Von Hool coach, almost 11 emergency exits. So typically 4 windows per side, which is what the federal mandates are per numbers of passengers, 2 roof hatches. The entrance door is considered an exit as well. So we have ways to get out of a coach. This particular incident was very catastrophic. Normally, if we have coach fires, no loss of life because it's a slow situation and people get out. 217 is the only requirement that exists. The secondary door and the emergency lighting have no federal requirements, so we echo previous 2 comments to wait for some federal requirements that we're all uniform in how we make our coaches.
Thank you. The first and second. Is there any questions of the committee of the panel? Seeing none, Mr. Senator Laura, would you like to close?
Thank you, members. I appreciate your time. And just to reiterate that California has implemented standards when the feds have failed time and time again, and when you look at limousines, and California continues to lead. In terms of the bus manufacturers, the raised concerns about federal preemption, we actually are looking with our ledge counsel, has clearly stated that the bill raises no such issue, but to that matter, we have also requested counsel to draft a formal opinion, so we're working on that as well, and I hope you give me the opportunity to continue to work on this important issue. So with that, I respectfully ask for aye vote.
Thank you, Senator. Senator, I'll be supporting your bill today. I appreciate your willingness to work with the bill stakeholders to address their concerns, and it appears the issue of federal preemption may no longer apply. It would be hard to argue that safety requirements in this measure would not have the potential to save lives, as demonstrated by your witness. I can only say that when I go onto an airplane, I look, and that's the first thing I look for. And we've been doing, as you know, sir, you've been traveling a lot of years, and so those are the things that that we cannot surpass, and as testimony of the earlier author's bill, no life is worth it. And so this is a gradual guide path, and I appreciate you taking the amendments and looking forward to you working with the stakeholders. I know you're a very reasonable man, and I look forward to a successful outcome with that. Madam Secretary, we have a first by Assemblymember Brown and a second by Mr. Nazarian. Please call the roll.
The motion is due pass to the Assembly Appropriations Committee. Frazier.
Aye.
Frazier, aye. Linder.
Aye.
Linder, aye. Baker. Baker, aye. Bloom. Bloom, aye. Brown. Brown, aye. Chu. Chu, aye. Daly. Dodd. Dodd, aye. Eduardo Garcia. Eduardo Garcia, aye. Gomez. Gomez, aye. Kim. Mathis. Medina. Medina, aye. Melendez. Melendez, aye. Nazarian. Nazarian, aye. O'Donnell. O'Donnell, aye.
Senator, you have 13. We'll leave the roll open for absent members. Congratulations. So, Madam Secretary, let's lift the call.
On the consent calendar, Bloom. Bloom, aye. Chu. Chu, aye. Dodd. Dodd, aye. Eduardo Garcia. Eduardo Garcia, aye. Gomez. Gomez, aye. Nazarian. Nazarian, aye. Consent calendar, 15-0. So I'm going to run through them. File item 1, ACR 174, is on consent. Final vote, 15-0. File item 2, ACR 177, is on consent. Final vote, 15-0. File item 3, SB 247, Daly. Kim. Final vote, 13-0. File item 4 is on consent. Final vote, 15-0. File item 5 is SB 940 is on consent. Final vote, 15-0. File item 6, SB 1072. The motion is due pass to the Assembly Education Committee. Chair voted aye. Gomez. Gomez, aye. Kim. Mathis. Melendez. Final vote, 13-0. File item 7 is on consent. Final vote, 15-0. File item 8 is on consent. Final vote, 15-0. File item 9 is on consent. Final vote, 15-0.
Legislative business before the Assembly Transportation Committee is now complete. This hearing is adjourned.